Hello and welcome everyone to the second season of the Customer Service Show. I am Garima Aneja, your host for the season, and I couldn't be more excited to kickstart another exciting episode. Our series aims to be a guiding light, offering invaluable insights and strategies that can revolutionize your approach to implementing Gen AI for your customer service function. In this new season, we are embarking on a journey into the future of customer support, navigating the ever evolving landscape shaped by generative AI. We will unravel its impact on customer support, examining how it revolutionizes agent processes and workflows, enhances efficiency, and ultimately transform the customer and agent experience. In this new era of generative AI, the onus is on us humans to steer the development of generative AI responsibly and not get swayed into creating the smartest AI without responsibility. Ethical considerations and regulations must become the bedrock of foundation models of AI innovation, ensuring that these powerful tools are used to enhance our lives rather than diminish our grasp on reality. In today's episode, we are diving deep into the heart of the matter, exploring the shifting dynamic of trust in the era of generative AI. And joining us are two distinguished experts who bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table, Patricia Lughezzani and Taranjeet Singh. Quick introductions are in order. Patricia Lughezzani is a highly accomplished visionary professional with a distinguished career in building, revitalizing, and optimizing customer support, success, renewal sales, technical services, and sustaining engineering organizations to facilitate growth and customer retention. Formerly the Group Vice President of Customer Experience at Marketo and Global Head of Support Strategy and Operations at Adobe, Patricia's consulting company, PL Support Solution, focuses on success, premium support, and support optimization strategies. Welcome, Patricia, to yet another episode of the Customer Service Show.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
We also have joining us today Taranjeet Singh, who is the principal data scientist at Search NFI. He spearheads the end to end development and deployment of cutting edge deep learning, traditional machine learning, and data science solutions. Leveraging edge AI and keen business insights, he drives innovation for our flagship product, ensuring superior self service experiences and user satisfaction. Welcome, Taranjeet, to the episode.
Hey, happy to be here.
Diving right in, now that we have introduced our esteemed guest, let's take a quick look at the agenda for today's discussion. We will be examining the pivotal role of trust in the adoption of AI driven solutions, exploring strategies to create intuitive and seamless interactions with AI interfaces, discussing the importance of high quality content, understanding the integration between chatbots and human assisted support, and finally, debating the strategies for maximizing customer adoption and satisfaction with AI powered solutions. Jumping right in, Patricia, if we can start with the first question for the day, we have been talking about the several significant factors that contribute to the widespread mistrust in AI, ranging from the complexity of LLMs to the lack of transparency in decision making processes and even the absence of a moral code. For the audience today, please can you talk more about these factors and how individually as well as collectively they influence the overall skepticism and hesitancy towards embracing AI powered solutions, especially when it comes to customer service contacts?
Absolutely. That's exactly correct. As we enable AI workflows on our community, we want to make sure that we provide a great customer experience. So it's important that we understand the innate mistrust in this technology as a potential barrier to expand and enable customer adoption. The large language models that power Gen AI are complex and are not deeply understood, which is why it can create a little bit of mistrust in this technology. Let's break this down a little bit. Because AI is generated responses in a black box, we're just not sure how AI found a particular answer. On the other hand, we understand very well how people learn from their experiences. And when it comes to decision making, it's also not understood how AI would make a decision when processing contradictory information. We've all heard the term hallucinations which happens when LLMs process information from a large amount of data, and then maybe the sources are not validated. Or AI can draw conclusions from incomplete patterns. Also, human judgment is very difficult to emulate, and certainly for an enterprise community sites, unfavorable opinions, off-brand messaging, all these issues can be very, very damaging from a branding perspective. And then there's a general mistrust due to no moral code, right, and AI decision making. And then lastly, regulation and government laws are lagging behind the advancement of the technology. This can all cause uncertainty. Taryn, as a principal data scientist and an expert in this field, do you have any thoughts on the reasons why customers mistrust AI technology?
Yep. So AI is a black box right now. Even the people who are training these large language models are not sure what will come out at end, and that is the very nature of the deep learning and how it works. The decision making of the large language models are mysterious, and sometimes even we see some kind of bias in their judgment. If you have used ChatGPT or other tools like Midjourney, you would see that the ability to of large language models to always follow your instructions is very less. And if you were to create a solution that would serve your customers, and where the onus of making a mistake is very low, you can't really afford to make a low, you can't really afford to give a wrong directions or wrong kind of set of answers to your customers. You would be very careful using these technologies. Of course, these are augmented by systems like rack. You are trying to create guardrails, but I think that mistrust in the AI is very evident of what we are seeing in the market itself. As the technology grows, as more and more data scientists are making sure that the guardrails are already placed in the data set that they are training their models on, like we see Anthropic do. So Anthropic's data set is something that they are really considerate about, and they make sure that the avenue of hallucination, instead of hallucination just say I don't know, is present in the training of the model itself. I think as we move towards that kind of responsible AI environment, where companies and the implementers both are taking care of the mistrust and making sure the environment is secure, we will see less of this mistrust and more confidence in the usage of AI.
Thank you so much for that, Taran. Uh, okay, so now that we understand what is driving this mistrust in the technology, what do we do about it? First off, I do highly recommend that we think carefully through what you're trying to accomplish and map out a time horizon. Objectives for implementing Gen AI can be cost savings, scale, and mostly reducing customer effort. So there's a lot of different workflows that AI can be utilized for. The best is to prioritize what you want to implement long term, roll out the changes incrementally, and then validate those effectiveness as you evolve. It's very important to understand how the data is being interpreted and presented back to your customers. So let's step through some of the considerations for building that long-term planning. First of all, I always like to bring up experience because we're focused so heavily on a lot of the cost savings. But if you can get accurate, relevant answers to your customers, you really can reduce the effort and have a very enjoyable online interaction. And then also, it's my opinion that if you can drive transparency, you can create trust in the technology and what you're presenting on your community. And the best way to show transparency on a community is to make sure that you're showing customers that they're engaging with an AI technology tool. You identify the sources of those data sources, usually through a URL, and then have a clear path to live assisted and also a way to provide feedback. Taryn, I'm going to pass it over to you to discuss use cases and data sources.
Yeah. So you have to figure out that what are the use cases that you want to solve with the AI, and maybe not even use the big large language models to solve all of the cases that you have. The idea is that there will be specific models that are trained to do certain tasks in a very proficient way. So once you have the use cases defined, you can start working around the guardrails. For example, if you want to generate synthetic data, you have to figure out that, hey, how much of the data is actually based on the original distribution that was there. If you want to use it for inferences, you want to figure out that how can I prevent the hallucination or make sure that it's aligned to what the data sources were. And of course that brings me to the second point, that is the data sources. You need to figure out that what kind of information needs to come from what data sources and how do we validate that. Having a context is very important. For example, if you go to ChatGPT and you start talking about something and you don't have anything to validate it against, these large language models would generate answers. They would also generate some kind of links that won't even open, right? So you need to have a consistent data source. You need to figure out that, hey, this is the context that's going in based on this query. This is the answer I'm getting. And maybe I can validate now that I have the answer, I have the sources, and this is my use case, and this is where the boundaries are for my large language model to work.
And Taryn, can you provide a little bit of insight on using the data sources and also providing that transparency? Because I feel like this is really the key to driving the trust.
Of course. So when you start using large language models, you have to figure out that the questions that you are trying to answer are present in your data sources or not. If the new versus unknown, as we say in KCS methodology, if you have a lot of content that is unknown, and there are queries coming in and you're not able to overlap the knowledge on top of each other, you won't be able to give relevant answers. Even if you have a large language model, if you don't have the relevant content in your data sources, the large language model will tell to hallucinate. So you have to figure out that, hey, I have to give this kind of transparency to my users, that the answers, even though I'm trying to fetch it from the content, I don't really have the answers, and this will make the large language model hallucinate even more. Because large language models at the end of the day are pattern finding machines. They will always try to give you answer unless stated otherwise. And once you start bringing in the transparency element of this, even from the RAG pipeline, that, hey, this is the RAG pipeline that was used and this is the context that was generated. Maybe you can start also talking about, this was the prompt that was used to create this kind of knowledge, this was the persona that was set, this was the temperature that was set. So bringing all of this transparency to the system through the RAG pipeline builds a kind of trust that the people can then use to validate what they are getting, and be more profound of what the answers they are getting.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. It really does. And then for answers that are not able to be determined through the content sources, are they able to very easily say, I don't know the answer and pass it over to assisted?
Yeah. So I mean, so there are multiple ways, right? Maybe you do some kind of prompt engineering to say that if you don't find the relevant answer, you leave the burden of saying I don't know the answer to a large language model, and say that if you are able to take an educated guess that the context that was provided to me was not enough. But sometimes a small amount of context is present. For example, if you are asking a particular question, the context might not have the complete answer, but some part of it, and the LLM might get confused. In that case, you can put in guardrails, where you are using semantic similarity, figuring out whether the entities that were mentioned in the context are present in the answer or not, using these kind of technologies to hard code print a message that, hey, maybe the context that we are providing doesn't have the relevant information, and instead of misleading a person, you stop that conversation right there.
Oh, that makes a ton of sense. Thanks for that clarity. Appreciate that. I hear from many of my clients that they have a corporate objective to implement AI. In this case, I always recommend to take a step backwards, take a look at what your objectives are, what you want to focus on in the community and in support operations, and what the outcome should be. You want to be able to probably drive operational scale, increase productivity, or even implement a better customer experience on the community. Then once you understand these objectives, prioritize the specific workflows that you want to achieve, and then work on your long-term planning. So Taran, can you walk us through some of the workflows that you have within Search Unify and how you can enable AI to be able to empower these different workflows?
Yeah. So all in all, most of the use cases can be divided into two distinct categories. The first one is using large language models generative capacity, and the second is using the decision making capacity of our large language model, right? So we have in Search Unify use cases where we are using the linguistic capacity to create comprehensive answer. For example, if the answer is segregated in multiple documents and the LLM is able to figure that out and give you a complete comprehensive answer. That is, we using the linguistic capacity of large language model to drive an answer. And same in Suva, where we are using the conversational chatbot to have a one-to-one conversation, where instead of following a predefined template and entities, the large language models are being used to drive the whole conversation. Even in search, when we are have to figure out that these are the relevant documents that could generate these relevant contexts for the answers, large language models are able to take that decision based on the agents that we create. The second part is using the large language models aptitude, I'll say. And the idea is that large language models are able to take certain decisions when given certain situations. You can use few short prompting and techniques like that to train a large language model to handle certain situations. For example, case routing, that hey, these are my few candidates that have these skill sets. How do you make sure that the relevant agent gets the relevant answer? So the idea is that you use few short prompting and let create agents and let LLMs take that decision based on a dynamic situation that arise, whether it be figuring out what should be the next best actions based on the current reports in the analytics, or whether it be assigning a new case to someone. So large language models can use the aptitude of theirs to make this happen, and this comes in the form of search, chatbot, case routing, assisting the agent to figure out that what should be done next. Their linguistic capacity can be used to create knowledge, draft the articles that are being created, categorize. So one of the few things that have come up in large language models are their ability to tag content. So you give them few examples, give them new cases, and they'll start categorizing the cases that was not possible before, and using that to figure out that which of these cases will escalate or not. So you have to think of these large language models from an agent point of view, that hey, you have created an agent that as a large language model that can then figure out which case will escalate or not. So yeah, a bunch of cases we have in Search Unify that take advantage of that.
As an industry, we spend a lot of time discussing the benefits of scale and cost savings that can be achieved. However, there is a huge upside in delivering customer and employee experiences that reduce time, effort, and drive community adoption and increase retention. The key is to understand and enable the results needed by each one of those users and enable a streamlined online assisted workflow for customers to get to the employees to answer questions if AI is unable. So that we know that we can reduce costs and increase customer satisfaction and even reduce time if we can answer questions self-service. So we want to answer as many as we can there, then very efficiently pass that to an employee who has the same access to AI tools. While the cost does go up, CSAT may go down because things take longer, do often create a lower CSAT. However, if you're able to efficiently get that over and then provide additional insights, you can save your CSAT and hopefully increase that customer experience through the whole process. Taran, do you have any customer examples of or business results that are achieved by implementing AI-powered self-service experience?
Yeah, I can think of two on top of my head that really made an impact. The first one was for a customer. So the customers usually know what the people will be searching for and what are the documents that solve this problem. But there are so many ways of asking a particular problem that you can't really, use something like a keyword detection to do that. The idea is that so for this particular customer, the idea is that we were able to provide them a intent detection solution that was using AI to generate the synthetic utterances. The idea was that the customer would go in, they'll provide few examples of how a particular query can be expressed, and then AI would create the following utterances that would encapsulate all the possible variations of this particular query. And then the documents can be mapped that hey, whenever someone is asking for this particular query, these are the documents that can be attached to it and shown as the result. And this really helped the customer for the documents that they knew that the people would be coming in and asking, solve the matching of intent to the relevant documents. For second, our customer, for second customer for us, The idea is that their knowledge was segregated into various documents. So if a person comes in, he had to iterate through various documents to get a single answer right. For example, if a person comes in and say that, hey, I want to install this particular version, there were like four different steps that he had to take: install the OS, install the relevant packages, set up the relevant environment. And these were encapsulated in four different documents, which a person had to go through in self journey to figure out himself. But with AI, the large language models can figure out all of this context on their own and say that, hey, if your final objective is to install this particular software or solution, you need to capture all these 4 points that are segregated in different documents. And this is the final steps that you need to take to get these answers done. And this, when implemented in the case forms, really help bring the knowledge that was sitting there and really enable the self-service.
Sounds good. Well, I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did. Just want to leave you with a couple key takeaways. Firstly, it is important to understand and mitigate the challenges leading to AI mistrust. To achieve cost and scale objectives, focus on long-term planning with incremental changes. An engaging customer experience for customers and employees will enable adoption. Gen AI does not eliminate the need for a KCS process and access to skilled assisted support. And last but not least, implementing using responsible AI principles for enterprise customers will help build trust and drive adoption and retention.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Thank you so much, Taran. As we wrap up today's insightful discussion, I want to extend our gratitude to our esteemed guests for sharing their valuable expertise with us. I hope that our exploration of the changing dynamics of trust and customer experience in the age of generative AI has sparked meaningful conversations and inspired new approaches within your organization. If you have any questions or feedback related to this episode, we encourage you to reach out to us at the customer service show at searchinify.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep supporting your customers with excellence. We'll catch you in the next episode of the Customer Service Show very soon. Take care.